Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the deep end, exploring 30 philosophical ideas that have shaped human thought for centuries. From the meaning of life to the nature of reality, these concepts will challenge your assumptions and maybe even change the way you see the world. So, let's get started. Let's take a closer look at some of the most profound ideas from ancient philosophy, the very roots of Western thought. These aren't just historical footnotes, they offer powerful insights that are still incredibly relevant today. Plato's Allegory of the Cave, unveiling reality. Imagine a group of people who have been chained in a cave their entire lives. They're facing a wall, and behind them, a fire burns. Between the fire and the prisoners, people walk by carrying objects. The prisoners don't see these people or objects directly. They only see the shadows cast on the wall in front of them. For them, these shadows are their entire reality, the only truth they've ever known. One day, a prisoner is freed and dragged out of the cave into the sunlight. At first, the light is blinding and painful. They struggle to adjust, but eventually, they see the real world, the vibrant colors, the distinct shapes, the actual objects that cast those mere shadows. This experience is transformative, revealing a far richer and truer reality than they ever imagined. The core idea? This allegory challenges us to question our own perceptions and what we consider to be reality. Are we, like the prisoners, only seeing shadows of a deeper truth? Plato suggested that the physical world we experience is just a shadow of a higher, more perfect realm of forms. It's a powerful call to seek knowledge, to turn the mind's eye towards true understanding, and to break free from the limitations of our immediate senses. Aristotle's Eudaimonia, the art of flourishing. When we talk about happiness today, we often think of fleeting pleasures or good feelings. But for Aristotle, the concept was far grander. He called it eudaimonia, pronounced eudaimonia, and it's much more than just being happy. Eudaimonia is about human flourishing, about living a life of excellence and fulfilling your highest potential. Think of a healthy, thriving plant. It's not just surviving, it's growing vigorously, producing fruit, fulfilling its nature. For humans, Aristotle believed this flourishing is achieved through the development of virtue, traits like courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. It's not about isolated acts of kindness, but about cultivating a virtuous character through consistent practice. Living a eudaimonic life means actively engaging with the world, using your reason, and striving for moral excellence in everything you do. It's a lifelong pursuit, a journey of becoming the best version of yourself, leading to deep and lasting fulfillment. Socrates' The Unexamined Life is Not Worth Living. A call to self-reflection. Socrates famously wrote nothing himself. All we know of him comes from the writings of his students, like Plato. But his central message resonates powerfully. The unexamined life is not worth living. What did he mean by this? Socrates believed that true wisdom comes from recognizing what you don't know. He would engage people in dialogue, relentlessly questioning their assumptions, beliefs, and definitions. This wasn't to belittle them, but to prompt self-reflection and expose the inconsistencies in their thinking. To live an examined life means to critically scrutinize your own beliefs, values, and motivations. It means asking, why? It means understanding yourself, your purpose, and your place in the world. Without this constant process of questioning and introspection, Socrates argued, we merely drift through life, never truly understanding ourselves or the principles by which we live. It's a timeless call for intellectual humility and the courage to look inward. Stoicism. Finding inner peace amidst chaos. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, the ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers a powerful roadmap to inner peace and resilience. Figures like Zeno of Citium, Seneca, and Epictetus taught that while we cannot control external events, we always have control over our reactions, judgments, and choices. The core of Stoicism lies in distinguishing between what is within our power and what is not. We can't control the weather, other people's opinions, or unexpected setbacks. But we can control how we think about these things, how we respond to them, and how we choose to act. By focusing our energy on our internal world, our thoughts, desires, and aversions, we can cultivate a sense of tranquility regardless of external circumstances. It's about accepting what you cannot change with grace, acting virtuously, and finding strength in adversity. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, but about understanding and managing them through reason, leading to a profound sense of calm and self-mastery. Epicureanism, the pursuit of tranquility, not wild pleasure. When you hear Epicureanism, you might think of lavish feasts and excessive indulgence, but that's a common misconception. Epicurus, the founder of this school, actually sought a life of tranquility and freedom from disturbance, not unrestrained hedonism. For Epicurus, the highest good wasn't intense pleasure, but the absence of pain, physical and mental. He believed that true happiness came from a state of ataraxia, freedom from disturbance, and aponia, freedom from pain. This meant living a simple life, free from anxiety, unnecessary desires, and fear, especially the fear of death and the gods. His advice included cultivating strong friendships, engaging in philosophical discussion, and enjoying simple pleasures like good food and conversation in moderation. It was about choosing wisely to minimize suffering and maximize a calm, contented existence, free from the turbulent pursuit of fleeting gratification. Epicureanism encourages us to find contentment in what we have, rather than constantly craving more. Pyrrhonism, the path of skeptical inquiry to peace. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by conflicting opinions and endless debates? Pyrrhonism, founded by Pyrrho of Elis, offers a unique approach to navigating uncertainty. Skepticism as a path to peace of mind. Unlike other philosophies that aim to establish definitive truths, Pyrrhonists believed that genuine knowledge about many matters is simply unattainable. They argued that for every argument, an equally compelling counter-argument could be made. Therefore, instead of trying to definitively prove or disprove things, the wisest course of action is to suspend judgment. This suspension of judgment, called epoche, wasn't about apathy or indifference. Instead, it was believed to lead to a state of ataraxia, a serene, undisturbed state of mind, free from the anxiety and frustration of trying to hold on to dogmatic beliefs that might be false. Pyrrhonism invites us to acknowledge the limits of our knowledge and, in doing so, find a form of intellectual liberation and tranquility. Mind, knowledge, and reality. Now, let's explore some profound ideas about how we know what we know and what's truly real. These concepts from the early modern period fundamentally challenged previous assumptions and laid the groundwork for much of contemporary thought. Descartes' Cogito, Ergo Sum. I think, therefore I am. Imagine yourself in a state of absolute doubt. You doubt your senses. Perhaps you're dreaming right now, or maybe an evil demon is tricking you. You even doubt the existence of the physical world. But then, a realization hits you, as it did for René Descartes. The very act of doubting proves that something must be doing the doubting. Even if you're being deceived, the deception requires a you to be deceived. This led Descartes to his famous declaration, Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. This isn't just a clever phrase. It's the foundational idea of modern philosophy. It asserts that the undeniable existence of your own consciousness, your own thinking self, is the first and most certain truth. From this bedrock of self-awareness, Descartes then tried to build up a system of knowledge, demonstrating how this radical doubt ultimately led to the certainty of his own existence as a thinking being. It's a powerful and deeply personal starting point for all inquiry. Locke's Tabula Rasa. Have you ever considered whether we're born with innate knowledge, perhaps preloaded ideas, or a basic understanding of morality? John Locke, a key figure in British empiricism, argued against this. He proposed that the human mind begins as a tabula rasa, a blank slate. According to Locke, we arrive in the world with no inherent knowledge, no inborn concepts. Instead, all our knowledge comes from experience. Think of a newborn baby. Its mind is empty, waiting to be filled. Our senses provide us with raw data from the external world, the sight of a tree, the sound of music, the feeling of warmth. This is sensation. And then, our minds reflect on these experiences, processing them into more complex ideas. This is reflection. So for Locke, everything we know, every idea we have, every thought we generate, is ultimately derived from these two sources of experience. This idea radically shifted thinking about human nature, emphasizing the power of education and environment in shaping who we become. Berkeley's immaterialism, to be is to be perceived. Now prepare for a truly mind-bending concept from George Berkeley. He took Locke's empiricism to its extreme, leading to a radical philosophical position known as immaterialism. While Locke believed our ideas come from experience of an external world, Berkeley asked, how can we prove that external world exists independently of our perception? Berkeley's famous dictum is esse est percipi, to be is to be perceived. What does this mean? It means that physical objects like the chair you're sitting on or the device you're watching this on only exist as ideas in a mind. If a tree falls in a remote forest and no one is there to perceive it, to see it, hear it, touch it, does it actually exist? Berkeley argued no. He believed that the only things that exist are minds and their ideas. To avoid the world constantly popping in and out of existence when no human is perceiving it, Berkeley proposed that everything continues to exist because it is perceived by an eternal, omnipresent mind, God. It's a profound challenge to common sense, suggesting that reality is fundamentally mental. Hume's problem of induction. We all live our lives assuming consistency. You expect the sun to rise tomorrow, that gravity will continue to pull things down, and that a hot stove will burn you. This expectation that future events will resemble past ones is known as induction. But David Hume, another influential empiricist, exposed a deep and troubling philosophical problem with this very assumption. Hume argued that there's no logical, rational guarantee that the future will necessarily resemble the past. Just because the sun has risen every day for billions of years doesn't logically compel it to rise tomorrow. Our belief that it will is based on habit, custom, and psychological expectation, not on deductive reasoning or an undeniable law of nature that we can logically prove. Hume demonstrated that our most fundamental beliefs about cause and effect and the reliability of the world are ultimately built on a non-rational foundation. This problem of induction remains a central challenge in epistemology, the study of knowledge, highlighting the inherent limits of what we can truly know about the world. Kant's categorical imperative. When we think about morality, many people consider consequences. Is this action good because it leads to a good outcome? But Immanuel Kant offered a different, revolutionary approach centered on duty and universal principles. He proposed the categorical imperative, an unconditional moral command that applies to everyone, everywhere, at all times, regardless of their desires or the outcome. Kant's most famous formulation is, act only according to that maxim whereby you can, at the same time, will that it should become a universal law. What does this mean in practice? Before you act, ask yourself, what if everyone did this? For example, if you're thinking of lying to get out of trouble, Kant would ask, what if everyone lied whenever it was convenient? If lying became a universal law, the very concept of truth would collapse, and communication would become meaningless. Therefore, lying is morally wrong because it cannot be consistently universalized. The categorical imperative compels us to act based on principles that we believe should apply to everyone, highlighting a powerful and rational basis for ethical behavior rooted in universal duty, not just personal gain or consequence. Nietzsche's will to power. Finally, let's turn to Friedrich Nietzsche, who offered a truly radical interpretation of human motivation. The will to power. This concept is often misunderstood as simply a desire for dominance or control over others, but for Nietzsche, it was far more profound and pervasive. Nietzsche argued that the will to power is the fundamental intrinsic drive animating all living things. It's not just about brute strength or political authority. It's the inherent impulse to grow, overcome, assert, and actualize oneself. Think of an artist creating, a scientist discovering, an athlete pushing their limits, or even a plant striving towards the sunlight. These are all expressions of the will to power. the desire to expand, to affirm life, to transform, and to continually become something more. It's the engine of creativity, ambition, and self-overcoming. For Nietzsche, understanding this fundamental drive is key to understanding not only human nature but also the very essence of life itself, moving beyond mere survival to a dynamic process of perpetual becoming. Existence, meaning, and morality. These ideas delve into some of the biggest questions of all: our purpose, the meaning of life, and how we should live it. These are the core existential inquiries that often keep us up at night. Kierkegaard's leap of faith. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, terrifying abyss. For Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher considered the father of existentialism, this abyss represents the profound uncertainty and meaninglessness that can accompany human freedom. In the face of overwhelming choices, the limitations of reason, and a world that offers no inherent purpose, Kierkegaard proposed the leap of faith. This isn't just about religious belief, though it often applies there. It's about a conscious, often irrational, and deeply personal commitment to something. It's a passionate, almost defiant choice to believe or act in the face of absolute uncertainty, even paradox. For example, a young person might take a leap of faith by committing to a career path with no guarantee of success, or by dedicating themselves to a relationship without knowing the future. It's an embrace of the absurd and a radical act of will that defines one's existence, even when reason alone can't provide the answers. Sartre's existence precedes essence. Another giant of existentialism, Jean-Paul Sartre, offered a revolutionary idea about human freedom. Existence precedes essence. What does this mean? Traditionally, many believe that things have an essence, a predefined nature or purpose, before they exist. For example, a knife has the essence of cutting before it's made. Sartre argued that for humans, it's the opposite. We are born without any inherent purpose, nature, or pre-given meaning. We simply exist first. It is then through our choices, actions, and projects that we create our own essence. This makes us profoundly free, but also profoundly responsible. Sartre famously said we are condemned to be free, burdened by the total responsibility for defining ourselves and creating our own values in a world that offers no external guidelines. There's no script, no divine plan. You are the author of your own life's meaning. Camus Absurdism. If life has no inherent meaning, as existentialists suggest, how do we cope? Albert Camus, a French philosopher and writer, grappled with this question, leading to his philosophy of absurdism. Camus recognized a fundamental conflict: the human desire for meaning, clarity, and purpose, clashing with a silent, indifferent universe that offers none. This clash, this irreconcilable tension, is the absurd. Unlike pure nihilism, which might conclude that life is therefore pointless and we should give up, Camus argued for a different response. He believed the absurd hero doesn't deny this contradiction but embraces it. Like Sisyphus, who is condemned to eternally push a boulder up a hill only for it to roll back down, the absurd hero finds joy and defiance in the very struggle. It's about finding meaning in the rebellion against meaninglessness, living passionately in the face of indifference, and creating your own values even when the universe provides no answers. It's a powerful call to live fully and defiantly in an inherently meaningless world. Utilitarianism. Bentham Mill. When it comes to ethical decision-making, how do we determine what's right? Utilitarianism, primarily developed by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, offers a clear, consequences-based approach. The core principle is simple: the greatest good for the greatest number. In utilitarianism, an action is considered morally right if it produces the greatest overall happiness or well-being and the least amount of suffering for the most people affected. It's a form of consequentialism, meaning the morality of an action is judged by its outcome. Imagine a situation where you have to choose between two actions. A utilitarian would calculate which action would produce the most overall happiness and minimal pain across all affected individuals. This framework encourages us to consider the broader impact of our choices and strive for outcomes that maximize collective well-being, even if it means sacrificing some individual preferences. Deontology, Kant. Contrast that with deontology, championed by Immanuel Kant. Unlike utilitarianism, deontology argues that the morality of an action should be based on whether it adheres to a rule or duty, rather than its consequences. For a deontologist, certain actions are inherently right or wrong, regardless of the outcome. Think of it this way. Lying, for a deontologist, is always wrong, not because it might get you caught, but because it violates a universal moral duty not to lie. Kant's famous categorical imperative, which we discussed earlier, is a core part of this. It insists that we act only on principles that we would want to become universal laws. So, if an action is based on a moral duty, and that duty can be applied universally, then the action is ethical, even if the outcome isn't ideal in every single instance. It emphasizes intentions, duties, and universal moral laws over situational results. Virtue ethics, Aristotle. Moving beyond rules and consequences, virtue ethics, rooted in the philosophy of Aristotle, shifts the focus. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" or "What are the consequences?" virtue ethics asks, "What kind of person should I be?" It's about the character of the moral agent rather than specific actions or their outcomes. Aristotle believed that by cultivating virtuous traits like courage, honesty, generosity, temperance, and wisdom, we develop a good character. These virtues aren't just innate. They are developed through practice, habit, and living a balanced life, often finding the golden mean between extremes. For example, courage is the mean between recklessness and cowardice. The idea is that a truly virtuous person will naturally make the right choices because their character is aligned with excellence and flourishing. It's a holistic approach to morality, focusing on becoming a good person. Feminist philosophy. Finally, let's consider feminist philosophy, a diverse and dynamic field that critically examines traditional philosophical frameworks from a gendered perspective. For centuries, much of Western philosophy was written predominantly by men, often reflecting and reinforcing patriarchal assumptions. Feminist philosophy challenges these historical biases, critiquing how philosophical concepts like reason, knowledge, morality, and even the nature of the self have been shaped by gendered experiences and power structures. It highlights issues of power, equality, experience, and justice, questioning how gender has been defined, enforced, and often marginalized in philosophical discourse. From examining the concept of justice in a gendered world to exploring the ethics of care, feminist philosophy seeks to broaden our understanding of human experience and create more inclusive and equitable philosophical approaches. It's a vital voice in challenging norms and striving for a more just society. Society, politics, and language. Now, let's look at how philosophy intersects with our social and political lives, and how it helps us understand the very structures that govern our interactions and how we communicate. These thinkers challenged established norms and offered profound insights into human community. Rousseau's social contract. Have you ever wondered why we live in societies with laws and governments, rather than in a state of pure, untamed freedom? Jean-Jacques Rousseau, an influential Enlightenment philosopher, explored this question with his concept of the social contract. Rousseau argued that in a hypothetical state of nature, individuals would be free but also vulnerable. To achieve security, order, and the benefits of collective living, individuals willingly enter into a social contract. This is an implicit agreement where everyone gives up some of their absolute individual freedom in exchange for the protection and advantages of living under a common set of laws and a shared civic body. The key for Rousseau was that this agreement must reflect the general will of the people, aiming for the common good rather than just individual interests. It's a foundational idea for modern democracy, suggesting that legitimate political authority comes from the consent of the governed, ensuring a balance between individual liberty and collective well-being. Marx's historical materialism. When we look at history, we often focus on kings, wars, and great leaders. But Karl Marx proposed a radically different way of understanding historical development: historical materialism. For Marx, history isn't primarily driven by ideas, religion, or the actions of powerful individuals. Instead, he argued that the fundamental engine of history is economic forces and the way societies organize their production. Marx believed that society is built upon its material base, the means of production, like land, factories, technology, and the relations of production, how people organize themselves to produce goods, like master and slave, lord and serf, capitalist and worker. This material base, he argued, shapes everything else in society, including our laws, politics, culture, and even our beliefs and ideologies, what he called the superstructure. Conflicts between different economic classes, arising from these production relations, are the ultimate driving force behind historical change, leading to revolutions and new societal structures. It's a powerful lens through which to understand power dynamics and social transformation. Foucault's power knowledge. When we think of power, we often picture a king, a dictator, or a police officer, someone who represses or controls. But Michel Foucault, a highly influential 20th century French philosopher, offered a much more nuanced and pervasive understanding of power. For Foucault, power isn't just repressive, it's profoundly productive. Foucault argued that power isn't simply held by individuals or institutions. It's diffused throughout society, operating in subtle and often invisible ways. Crucially, he linked power inextricably with knowledge. He argued that power shapes what we consider knowledge and truth in a given era. And conversely, certain forms of knowledge enable and legitimate certain forms of power. Think about how medical knowledge influences how we treat mental illness, or how psychological knowledge shapes our understanding of criminality. These bodies of knowledge aren't neutral. They are deeply intertwined with power structures that define, categorize, and control. Foucault's work forces us to see power not just as something negative, but as a dynamic force that actively constructs our realities and identities. Wittgenstein's language games. How do we understand each other? What gives words their meaning? Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the most important philosophers of the 20th century, revolutionized our understanding of language with his concept of language games. He moved away from the idea that words simply name objects. Instead, Wittgenstein argued that the meaning of words isn't fixed or universal. It comes from their use within specific contexts, rules, and forms of life, which he called language games. Think of a chess game. The meaning of a bishop isn't just its shape, but how it's used according to the rules of chess. Similarly, the word bank means something different in the context of money versus a river. Understanding a word means understanding the game it's being used in. This idea transformed philosophy of language, showing us that language is a dynamic social activity, and that confusion often arises when we misunderstand the particular game someone is playing with their words. Heidegger's Dasein. Finally, let's touch upon a concept from Martin Heidegger, one of the most profound and challenging figures in 20th century continental philosophy, Dasein. Heidegger wasn't just interested in human beings as objects, but in the unique way that human beings exist. Dasein, pronounced Dasein, literally translates to being there or presence. For Heidegger, Dasein isn't merely a biological entity or a thinking subject separate from the world. Instead, it emphasizes our fundamental temporal existence and our inseparable relationship with the world around us. We are always thrown into a particular situation, a specific time and place, and our being is always a being in the world. It highlights that our existence is not just about what we are, but how we are, deeply embedded in a context, constantly engaging with things, others, and our own finitude. Dasein means acknowledging our unique way of being as beings who question their own being, who project into the future, and who confront the reality of death. It's a profound concept that underscores the interconnectedness of our existence with the world we inhabit. Contemporary challenges and concepts. Finally, let's dive into some more recent and ongoing philosophical discussions that grapple with modern dilemmas, scientific advancements, and our changing understanding of the world. These are questions that are still very much open for debate. The Turing test. As artificial intelligence rapidly advances, one of the most fundamental questions is, can a machine truly think? In 1950, mathematician and computer scientist Alan Turing proposed a thought experiment to address this, the Turing test. The test works like this. A human interrogator communicates through text with two hidden entities, one human and one machine. If the interrogator cannot reliably distinguish the machine from the human, then the machine is said to have passed the Turing test. It's not about whether the machine feels or understands in the human sense, but whether it can exhibit intelligent behavior so convincingly that it is indistinguishable from a human. While no machine has definitively passed the test under strict conditions, it remains a crucial philosophical benchmark and a constant source of debate about the nature of intelligence, consciousness, and what it truly means to be human in an age of AI. The Ship of Theseus Paradox. This is a classic thought experiment that grapples with the nature of identity over time. Imagine the legendary Ship of Theseus, preserved in a harbor. Over decades, every single plank, mast, and rope of the ship is replaced with new parts due to wear and tear. Eventually, not a single original piece remains. The paradox then arises. Is it still the Ship of Theseus? And what if, as the old parts are removed, they are collected and reassembled into a second ship? Which one is the real Ship of Theseus? This paradox forces us to consider what constitutes identity. Is it continuity of parts, continuity of form, continuity of function, or something else entirely? It has profound implications not just for objects, but for personal identity. Are you the same person as you were 5 years ago, given that all your cells have been replaced and your memories and experiences have changed? It challenges our intuitive understanding of what it means for something, or someone, to remain the same over time. The problem of evil. For centuries, theologians and philosophers have wrestled with one of the most enduring challenges to monotheistic religions: the problem of evil. If God is traditionally defined as being all-powerful, omnipotent, all-knowing, omniscient, and all-good, omnibenevolent, then why does evil and suffering exist in the world? If God is all-good, He would want to prevent evil. If He is all-powerful, He could prevent evil. If He is all-knowing, He would know how to prevent evil. Yet evil undeniably exists in the form of natural disasters, disease, and human cruelty. This apparent contradiction forms the core of the problem. Various philosophical and theological responses, known as theodicies, have been proposed to try and reconcile these attributes with the existence of evil, ranging from the idea of free will to the necessity of suffering for spiritual growth. However, the problem of evil remains a powerful and deeply felt philosophical dilemma. Consciousness, the hard problem. You are experiencing consciousness right now, the vivid subjective feeling of being you, seeing colors, hearing sounds, feeling emotions. But how does this subjective experience arise from purely physical matter, like neurons firing in your brain? This is what philosopher David Chalmers famously called the hard problem of consciousness. The easy problems of consciousness involve understanding brain functions like information processing or attention. But the hard problem is about the qualitative aspect of experience. Why does it feel like something to be conscious? Why isn't it all just unconscious computation? Is consciousness an emergent property of complex systems? Is it fundamental to the universe? This mystery connects philosophy with neuroscience, physics, and psychology, pushing the boundaries of what we understand about the mind, the brain, and the very fabric of reality. It's arguably one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in science and philosophy today. Transhumanism. Looking to the future, transhumanism is a philosophical and intellectual movement that advocates for the enhancement of the human condition through technology. The core idea is that humanity, in its current biological form, is not the endpoint of evolution. Instead, transhumanists believe we can and should use advanced technologies, like genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and nanotechnology, to dramatically improve our intellectual, physical, and psychological capacities. This isn't just about curing diseases, it's about potentially extending lifespan indefinitely, boosting intelligence to extraordinary levels, or even integrating our minds with machines. while proponents see it as the next logical step in human progress, promising a future free from suffering and limitation. Critics raise profound ethical concerns about inequality, the definition of human, and the potential for unintended consequences. It's a vision that forces us to confront our deepest values and aspirations for the future of our species. Environmental ethics. Finally, as we face global challenges like climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, environmental ethics has emerged as a crucial field of philosophical inquiry. This area asks fundamental questions about our moral responsibilities towards the natural world and non-human life. Are humans the only beings with intrinsic value? Do animals have rights? Do ecosystems or even the planet itself have moral standing? Environmental ethics examines our relationship with nature, critiquing anthropocentric, human-centered views and exploring alternative perspectives that emphasize ecological integrity, sustainability, and respect for all living things. It asks us to reevaluate our ethical frameworks to include the environment, guiding us toward more responsible and sustainable ways of living on our shared planet. It's a philosophy directly tied to the urgent practical challenges of our time. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the ancient Greeks pondering reality to modern thinkers grappling with AI and our environment, philosophy offers incredible tools for understanding ourselves and the world. Now let's bring it all together. I'm going to quickly recap the core idea of each concept we've discussed, giving you a powerful summary to help these amazing philosophical insights really stick. Get ready for the rundown. And there you have it, 30 philosophical ideas that offer a glimpse into the vast and fascinating world of thought. Which one resonated most with you? Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Imagine prisoners chained in a cave, only seeing shadows on a wall. They believe these shadows are reality. This allegory questions our perception and the nature of truth. Aristotle's Eudaimonia. This isn't just happiness, but a state of flourishing, living well, and fulfilling your potential through virtue. Socrates' The Unexamined Life is Not Worth Living. A call to self-reflection and critical thinking. To truly live, we must question ourselves and the world around us. Stoicism. Zeno of Citium, Seneca, Epictetus. Focus on what you can control, your reactions, your choices, and accept what you cannot. Find inner peace amidst external chaos. Epicureanism. Epicurus. Don't confuse this with hedonism. Epicurus sought a life of tranquility and freedom from fear, achieved through simple pleasures and the absence of pain. Pyrrhonism. Pyrrho. A form of skepticism that suggests we should suspend judgment on matters we can't definitively know, leading to a state of mental peace. Descartes' Cogito Ergo Sum, I think therefore I am. The foundational idea of modern philosophy. The very act of doubting proves your existence. Locke's Tabula Rasa. The idea that the human mind is a blank slate at birth, and all knowledge comes from experience. Berkeley's Immaterialism. To be is to be perceived. If something isn't perceived, does it exist? This radical idea suggests that only minds and their ideas exist. Hume's problem of induction. We assume the future will resemble the past, e.g. the sun will rise tomorrow, but there's no logical guarantee for this. Kant's categorical imperative. Act only according to that maxim whereby you can, at the same time, will that it should become a universal law. Essentially, if everyone did it, would it still work? Nietzsche's will to power. More than just dominance, it's the fundamental drive of all things to grow, overcome, and assert themselves. Kierkegaard's leap of faith. In the face of existential dread and the absurdity of life, a conscious, often irrational choice to believe or commit. Sartre's existence precedes essence. We are born without inherent purpose. We create our own meaning through our choices and actions. We are condemned to be free. Camus Absurdism. Life is inherently without meaning, yet we strive to find it. The absurd hero embraces this contradiction and rebels against it. Utilitarianism. Bentham Mill. the greatest good for the greatest number. Actions are right if they promote happiness and wrong if they produce unhappiness. Deontology. Kant. Morality is based on duty and rules, not consequences. Certain actions are inherently right or wrong, regardless of the outcome. Virtue ethics. Aristotle. Focuses on the character of the moral agent rather than rules or consequences. What kind of person should I be? Feminist philosophy. Critiques traditional philosophical frameworks from a gendered perspective, highlighting issues of power, equality, and experience. Rousseau's social contract. Individuals give up some freedom for the security and benefits of living in a society under a common agreement. Marx's historical materialism. History is driven by economic forces and class struggle. The way we organize production shapes our society and beliefs. Foucault's power knowledge. Power isn't just repressive, it's productive. It shapes what we consider knowledge and truth, and vice versa. Wittgenstein's language games. The meaning of words comes from their use within specific contexts or language games. Understanding these contexts is crucial. Heidegger's Dasein, not just human being, but being there. It emphasizes our temporal existence and our relationship with the world around us. The Turing test. Can a machine exhibit intelligent behavior indistinguishable from a human? A fundamental question in artificial intelligence. The Ship of Theseus Paradox. If a ship has all its parts replaced, is it still the same ship? This explores identity over time. The problem of evil. If God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good, why does evil exist in the world? Consciousness, the hard problem. How does subjective experience arise from physical matter? This remains one of philosophy's biggest mysteries. Transhumanism. The idea of using technology to enhance human intellectual, physical, and psychological capacities, potentially beyond natural limits. Environmental ethics. Our moral responsibilities towards the natural world and non-human life. Here's an up-to-date, relevant example for each of the philosophical concepts we've discussed, designed to be easily narrated. Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Unveiling reality. An example today? Think about social media echo chambers or filter bubbles. We're often shown only content and opinions that confirm our existing beliefs, creating a shadow world where we might believe those filtered views are the whole truth. Breaking out means actively seeking diverse perspectives and challenging what we're fed. Aristotle's Eudaimonia, the art of flourishing. Today, eudaimonia can be seen in the pursuit of a meaningful career where you constantly learn and grow, like a software developer who actively seeks to master new coding languages and contribute to open-source projects, finding deep satisfaction in their craft, rather than just chasing the next promotion or paycheck. Socrates' The Unexamined Life is Not Worth Living. A call to self-reflection. In our fast-paced world, an unexamined life might look like blindly following trends or social media challenges without questioning why you're doing them, or accepting political narratives without critical thought. The Socratic call encourages us to pause, reflect, and ask, why do I believe this? Is this truly my value? Stoicism. Finding inner peace amidst chaos. Consider a professional athlete who faces a sudden career-threatening injury. A Stoic approach would be to focus on what they can control, their rehabilitation effort, their mental resilience, their attitude, rather than dwelling on the unfairness of the situation or the pain, allowing them to find peace and purpose in recovery. Epicureanism, the pursuit of tranquility, not wild pleasure. An Epicurean lifestyle today might involve choosing a quiet evening with close friends, enjoying homemade food and genuine conversation, over attending a crowded, expensive party that promises excitement but delivers anxiety and hangovers. It's about optimizing for calm contentment. Pyrrhonism, the path of skeptical inquiry to peace. In an era of fake news and overwhelming information, a Pyrrhonist approach would be to suspend judgment on sensational headlines or unverified claims, especially on social media, recognizing that definitive truth is often elusive and rushing to a conclusion only causes mental distress. Descartes' Cogito, Ergo Sum, I think, therefore I am. In the digital age, this might manifest when you question whether your online persona or AI chatbot is truly you. Despite the digital layers, the very act of you pondering this question confirms your conscious, unique existence, separate from your digital footprint. Locke's Tabula Rasa. This concept influences how we approach early childhood education. Modern educators often design learning environments rich with sensory experiences and opportunities for exploration, recognizing that children's minds are like blank slates, ready to be filled and shaped by their interactions with the world. Berkeley's immaterialism, to be is to be perceived. Think about a popular online multiplayer game. When you log out, does that virtual world still exist? For Berkeley, it might only truly exist as long as it's being perceived and processed by someone's mind, or by the underlying server's ongoing perception, computation. Hume's problem of induction. When a self-driving car performs perfectly for thousands of miles, we assume it will continue to do so. Hume reminds us that even with vast past success, there's no logical guarantee it won't suddenly encounter an unprecedented situation for which its programming is unprepared, leading to an unexpected outcome. Kant's categorical imperative. Before sharing unverified information online, Kant's imperative would ask, what if everyone spread unverified information? If that became a universal rule, trust in information would collapse, making meaningful communication impossible. Therefore, it's a moral duty to verify before sharing. Nietzsche's will to power. Consider an entrepreneur who relentlessly innovates and expands their business, not just for profit, but driven by a deep desire to overcome market challenges, create something new, and leave their unique mark on an industry. That relentless drive to grow and assert is an expression of the will to power. Kierkegaard's leap of faith. A current example is an activist who dedicates their life to a cause with no guarantee of success, facing constant setbacks and resistance, but makes a conscious, passionate choice to believe in the possibility of change despite the overwhelming odds. Sartre's existence precedes essence. Think of someone choosing a non-traditional career path, like becoming a professional esports player or a digital nomad. There's no predefined essence for these roles. They are actively creating their meaning and identity through their unique choices and actions in a new landscape. Camus Absurdism. An example is finding joy and meaning in creating art, playing music, or dedicating yourself to a local community garden, knowing that in the grand scheme, these acts may seem small, but choosing to embrace and engage with them is your defiance against the universe's indifference. Utilitarianism. Bentham Mill. A government deciding to implement a new public health policy, e.g., vaccine distribution, would ideally use a utilitarian approach, choosing the strategy that promises to save the most lives and minimize overall suffering for the largest number of citizens, even if it inconveniences some individuals. Deontology, Kant. A doctor, regardless of personal feelings or potential negative outcomes, maintains patient confidentiality because it's an inherent professional and ethical duty. They wouldn't breach it, even if doing so might lead to a better outcome in a specific complex scenario, because the duty itself is paramount. Virtue ethics, Aristotle. Instead of just following rules, like don't cheat, or focusing on outcomes, like get a good grade, a student practicing virtue ethics would strive to become an honest person, developing habits of integrity in all their studies, which then naturally leads to not cheating. Feminist philosophy. Examining how online algorithms might perpetuate gender stereotypes in job advertising, or how AI voice assistants are often defaulted to female voices, reflecting traditional gender roles. Feminist philosophy critiques these subtle biases to advocate for more equitable digital spaces. Interconnection of concepts of philosophical dialogue. As we've explored these 30 incredible ideas, you might have noticed that philosophy isn't just a collection of isolated thoughts. It's a vast, ongoing conversation. Think of these concepts as voices in a grand debate, each one often responding to, challenging, or building upon the ideas that came before. Let's look at some of these fascinating interconnections. From ancient virtues to modern morality. We started with Aristotle's Eudaimonia and virtue ethics, focusing on being a good person through character development. Later, we saw Kant's Deontology shift the focus to universal duties and rules, and Utilitarianism emphasize the consequences of our actions for the greatest good. These aren't necessarily competing truths, but different lenses through which philosophers have tried to answer the fundamental question, how should we live? They highlight the ongoing tension between focusing on character, rules, or outcomes in ethical decision-making. The evolving nature of reality and knowledge. Remember Plato's allegory of the cave, which questioned our perception of reality? This fundamental doubt echoes through the centuries. Descartes' Cogito, Ergo Sum then provided a new starting point for certainty in the face of doubt, leading to the rise of rationalism. But then, Locke's Tabula Rasa countered with the idea that all knowledge comes from experience, sparking the empiricist movement. Berkeley pushed this empiricism to its extreme with immaterialism, suggesting reality is only in the mind. This in turn posed a challenge for Hume's problem of induction, which revealed the limits of empirical reasoning. Ultimately, Kant attempted to bridge this divide between rationalism and empiricism, trying to show how both reason and experience contribute to our understanding of the world. It's a continuous dialogue about what's real and how we can truly know it. Freedom, meaning, and the absurd. The ancient Stoics sought inner peace by focusing on what they could control, accepting what they couldn't. Centuries later, existentialist thinkers like Kierkegaard and Sartre brought the concept of radical freedom to the forefront, emphasizing our complete responsibility for creating our own meaning in a world without inherent purpose. Camus then confronted the very absurdity of this human desire for meaning in an indifferent universe. These philosophies, while distinct, all grapple with the human condition, the weight of freedom, and our search for meaning in a seemingly meaningless existence. They each offer a unique way to navigate the challenges of being alive. Society's structure and the power of ideas. When we think about society, Rousseau's social contract offered an ideal vision of how individuals might come together for the common good. However, Marx's historical materialism presented a much more critical view, arguing that society is fundamentally shaped by economic structures and class struggle, rather than just abstract agreements. Then Foucault deepened this critique by showing how power and knowledge are inextricably linked, subtly shaping our realities and controlling us in ways far more pervasive than explicit laws or economic systems. These ideas constantly challenge us to look beyond the surface and question the underlying forces that shape our social and political lives. These are just a few examples of how these philosophical ideas connect and influence each other. Thinking about these relationships not only deepens your understanding of each concept, but also reveals the dynamic, evolving nature of philosophy itself. It's a conversation that continues to this day. Bonus section: 5 modern thinkers challenging our world. To wrap things up, let's look at 5 contemporary philosophers who are actively challenging our assumptions about society, technology, and what it means to be human today. Their ideas are not just academic. They often spark widespread debate and directly influence how we think about our modern lives. Judith Butler, challenging fixed identities. Who they are: an American philosopher and gender theorist, often associated with post-structuralism and queer theory. How they challenge ideas. Butler is most famous for their theory of gender performativity. They argue that gender isn't a fixed, inherent identity that we have, but rather something we do through repeated actions, gestures, and speech. In their groundbreaking work, Gender Trouble, Butler suggested that the very idea of man or woman as stable, natural categories is constructed through social performance. This radically challenges traditional notions of sex, gender, and sexuality, opening up space for more fluid and diverse understandings of identity. Slavoj Žižek, the Elvis of cultural theory. Who they are: a Slovenian philosopher, cultural critic, and psychoanalyst, known for his unique blend of Lacanian psychoanalysis, Hegelian philosophy, and Marxist theory. How they challenge ideas. Zizek is notorious for his provocative, often controversial and always entertaining critiques of contemporary capitalism, ideology, and popular culture. He challenges our common sense, arguing that many of our seemingly free choices are actually dictated by unconscious ideological fantasies. He'll dissect anything from Hollywood blockbusters to political movements to expose the hidden contradictions and absurdities. His work often forces us to question the very reality we accept, pushing us to see the underlying structures of power and desire that shape our lives. Byung-Chul Han, the Burnout Society's critic Who They Are, a South Korean-born philosopher and cultural theorist who writes in German. How they challenge ideas. Han critiques what he calls the Achievement Society, or Burnout Society, of the 21st century. He argues that we no longer live in an obedient society characterized by prohibitions, but a can-do society, where the imperative to constantly perform, optimize, and achieve comes from within. This leads to self-exploitation, depression, and burnout, as individuals endlessly strive to be more productive. He challenges the idea that unlimited positivity and freedom are inherently liberating, arguing they can become new forms of control and exhaustion. Martha Nussbaum, Championing Human Capabilities. Who They Are. An American philosopher and legal scholar, known for her work in ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, political philosophy, ethics, and feminist philosophy. How they challenge ideas. Nussbaum challenges traditional economic and political models of development by arguing for the capabilities approach. Instead of just focusing on GDP or individual rights, she proposes that we should measure a society's well-being by what people are actually able to do and to be. This means ensuring that all individuals have access to a set of core human capabilities, like bodily health, emotional expression, practical reason, and political participation. This approach challenges systems that fail to provide real opportunities for human flourishing, particularly for vulnerable groups like women and the poor globally. Peter Singer, The Radical Utilitarian Who They Are. An Australian moral philosopher, considered one of the most influential applied ethicists of our time. How they challenge ideas. Singer is a controversial figure because he rigorously applies utilitarianism to real-world ethical dilemmas, often leading to conclusions that challenge our intuitions. He's famous for advocating for animal liberation, arguing against speciesism, and for the moral consideration of animal suffering. He also champions effective altruism, pushing us to give much more of our wealth to the most effective charities to alleviate global poverty. His work often forces us to confront our ethical responsibilities in a stark and uncomfortable way, demanding that we live up to the logical implications of our moral principles. The ongoing journey of philosophy. We've journeyed through 30 profound philosophical ideas, from the ancient questions of reality and virtue to modern dilemmas about AI, identity, and our place in the natural world. We've seen how thinkers like Plato, Descartes, Kant, and many others have grappled with the biggest questions, offering us powerful frameworks to understand our existence, our knowledge, and our moral responsibilities. But here's the exciting part. Philosophy isn't a static collection of answers. It's an ongoing, dynamic conversation. These ideas aren't just historical footnotes. They're living tools that continue to challenge our assumptions, shape our societies, and help us navigate the complexities of life. Whether you're pondering the nature of truth, questioning your purpose, or considering your ethical obligations, philosophy offers a rich tradition of thought to draw upon. It encourages us to think critically, to question deeply, and to embrace the joy of intellectual discovery. So, as we wrap up, remember, the journey of philosophy is your journey too. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep challenging your own mind. How to effectively retain philosophical concepts. Understand. Don't just memorize, grasp the core idea. Don't simply try to memorize a definition. Ask yourself, what fundamental question is this philosopher trying to answer? And what's their key solution or argument? Context is key. Understand the historical and intellectual context. Who was the philosopher? What era did they live in? What other ideas were they responding to or building upon? Knowing the why behind the idea makes it much more memorable. Use analogies and examples. As we did in the previous sections, connect abstract concepts to concrete real-world examples. If you can relate it to something you already understand or experience, it becomes tangible and easier to recall. Make it personal and relevant. Connect to your life. Ask yourself how a concept applies to your own experiences, decisions, or the society around you. The more personal the connection, the stronger the memory. Discuss and explain. One of the most powerful retention methods is to explain the concept to someone else, a friend, a family member, or even just out loud to yourself. If you can articulate it clearly, you've truly understood it. Debate. Respectfully. Engage in discussions or debates about these ideas. Try defending a particular viewpoint and then challenge yourself to argue for the opposing view. This forces a deeper, more active engagement with the material. Employ active learning techniques. Flashcards. Create flashcards with the concept name or philosopher on one side and a concise explanation with a key example on the other. Regularly test yourself, using spaced repetition, reviewing them at increasing intervals, to move information into long-term memory. Mind mapping. Visually organize concepts using mind maps. Place the central idea in the middle and then branch out with key definitions, supporting arguments, examples, and connections to other philosophers. This helps you see the relationships between ideas. Summarize in your own words. After reading or listening to a concept, write a brief summary in your own words. This active recall process is far more effective than just rereading. Try to distill it down to 1 or 2 sentences. Teach it. If you have the opportunity, teach these concepts to others. Preparing to teach forces you to structure your thoughts, anticipate questions, and deepen your own understanding. Leverage the video format. Rewatch sections. Go back and rewatch the specific sections of your video that you find most challenging. Repetition, combined with active listening, helps solidify understanding. Take notes while watching. Don't just passively watch. Pause the video and take your own notes, highlighting key terms and drawing simple diagrams. Use visuals. If you include strong visuals in your video, as suggested, those images will become powerful memory cues for the concepts they represent. By actively engaging with the material, connecting it to your own world, and using proven memory techniques, you'll be well on your way to mastering and retaining these fascinating philosophical concepts.